to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. It's 1 minute past the hour of 4 p.m. that we are coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. Once again, in another impromptu broadcast, where I thought we should get on here and discuss some bit of, football transfer news. So it's good to be back. It's really, really good to be here with you guys, every single one of you. For those of you that were part of the morning broadcast, thank you so much. It was a pleasure doing that with you guys as well. Getting to, know some of you. Thank you so much to our new community members and things of that nature, really. It's always appreciated when you guys join us, our respective broadcasts, and we get, in the conversation of football. So there's plenty to discuss. Things are happening as far as the transfer window is concerned. Man United are remaining relaxed, although it doesn't mean that they are done with their transfer business. They are plotting moves in this transfer window, but those moves are yet to yield fruit. So we'll be speaking about that. We'll get to speak about Newcastle. We'll get to speak about Sunderland and Granit Xhaka. So that kind of action. So many things to talk about. Really. So do please indulge me as I make sure everything does check out on our broadcast. But I think we are good to go. I'm just waiting for you guys to join the broadcast so that we can get this conversation going. I don't know. I feel like there's a lapse in my voice. I don't know if you guys are experiencing the same, but I hope everything is fine. Let me hope everything is fine, really. Excuse me. It's a beautiful Monday afternoon, evening, in fact. Like I said, it's already 4 p.m. School. Hello, baby. You say hello, baby. Hi, school. Where are you joining us from? It's good to have you on the Football Tribe YouTube channel live broadcast this Monday evening. Do let me know where you're joining us from. And yeah, let us know where you're joining us from. But it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Really, thank you so much for sparing the time to be with us this Monday afternoon. But like the headline says it all. Granit Xhaka is set for a Premier League return. Newcastle have turned their attention to Aaron Ramsdale. I'll be telling you why that is the case. But as far as a deal is concerned, for Granit Xhaka, looks set to join Sunderland on a 2-year contract, joining them from Bayer Leverkusen on a deal worth 20 million euros as a total package. Initial 17 million euros, I think. And then we'll get to speak about Aaron Ramsdale and how lucky he must be in some respect. And then we'll get to speak about Chelsea and their deal for Joel Hato. Perhaps we'll get to speak about Luis Diaz once again. We'll get to speak about Wiggman and England winning the Euros. Which team do you think will win the EPL? For now, I still think it's a two-horse race between Arsenal and Liverpool. I'm yet to, decide on who I'll tilt towards, but I get the feeling that it will be one of those two. Not to rule out Chelsea. Chelsea, I think, are really, really strengthening. But I want to give my final verdict on that when the season starts, and which will equally, the subject to change depending on how the transfer window closes, because you never know. Looking at the kind of reports that are surrounding Chelsea, I'm inclined to sort of be convinced that they will have a strong say in the Premier League title. Not that they will win it, but I think they may have a big say in the pursuit for the Premier League title, because they are being linked with the potential move for Gianluigi Donnarumma as contract talks between PSG and the Italian goalkeeper are yet to make headway. So you never know. That could change their fortunes in some respect. So, but anyways, let's start things off with Granit Xhaka. Like I said, he's destined for a Premier League return to Sunderland with after the two parties agreed on a 20 million euro deal. That's between Sunderland and Bayer Leverkusen. Just a couple of days ago, this Bayer Leverkusen manager in Eric Ten Hag was saying they were not letting go of any more players. They had already lost very many crucial players, the likes of Jonathan Tah, who left and joined Bayern Munich, the likes of course, Florian Wirtz left and joined Liverpool, as well as Jeremy Frimpong. So they had already lost some significant players in that squad. So you were saying that they were not intending to, excuse me, they were not intending to let go of any other players in this transfer window. So let's wait and see how everything will pan out on that side. So, but it looks like the player in Granit Xhaka, 32 years of age, also the captain of the Switzerland national team, has been granted permission to travel to the UK to undergo his medical ahead of completing that move to Sunderland, which is quite impressive to hear. I must mention this must be painful, I think, for Arsenal fans particularly, because I mean, Granit Xhaka left 2 years ago, went to the German Bundesliga under the charges of Xabi Alonso, won a cup double, winning the German Bundesliga title and the DFB Pokal, and he gets to return to the Premier League before Arsenal and lift a piece of silverware. I mean, how do you explain that? I mean, for all intents and purposes, I'm not saying that they should have won the Premier League, but maybe they should have lifted a piece of silverware in terms of at least a domestic cup. But unfortunately, they've not been able to get that as well. So it puts them in a bit of a difficult spot. It puts them in a bit of a tough position because, I mean, Granit Xhaka had said that, be patient with Mikel Arteta, he will win Arsenal trophies. Unfortunately for Mikel Arteta, Granit Xhaka left 2 years down the road, won two major trophies, including reaching the finals of the UEFA Europa League in the 2023 season, and he is back. That was 2023-2024 season, and he's back, and they've still not won anything, which should be quite painful for Arsenal fans to hear. But anyways, he is expected to join Sunderland. I think Sunderland have really done well in the market, but getting a player with the experience and seniority of Granit Xhaka will be a huge boost for them. We know about his leadership qualities. He was an Arsenal captain before he got stripped of the armband during the Unai Emery era. He was signed, I think, around 2016 to Arsenal, coming in from Borussia Mönchengladbach by Arsene Wenger at the time. Of course, during the Unai Emery era, by the end of it, he wanted to leave the club because of what had transpired. Fans booing him and everything to do with that line. Then Mikel Arteta walks into the door and convinces him to stay at the club. He managed to convince him to stay. So he wanted to have, a very good spell under Mikel Arteta. Quite a successful one as well, by the way. For those of you that do remember, including winning the FA Cup in 2020 when they beat Chelsea on the finals by 2 goals. I think, was it 2-1? Anyways, so he is that important a player, but looks destined for a move to Sunderland. Then, meanwhile, moving away from that, let's quickly run to Newcastle because the Magpies have now turned their attention to former Arsenal goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale after they lost a bid to sign James Trafford from Burnley. They conceded that to Manchester City. They had matched the valuation of the player for which Burnley wanted. But because Manchester City had the buyback clause in that contract, it meant that they had the advantage, or they hold the advantage over resigning James Trafford, and that's been the case so far. So looks like they've lost out on another target, and they are back in the market for a goalkeeper, which is not good really, because I mean they've so far failed to get their primary targets on numerous occasions. João Pedro, Brian Mbeumo, Liam Delap, and all players of that caliber, they considered them. They're still failing in their pursuit to sign Johan Wissa. They are really pushing hard to try and sign Benjamin Sesko, but they are yet to be successful on those fronts as well. So they have turned their attentions to try and sign Aaron Ramsdale. So this is according to David Osborne. Athletic saying Newcastle in talks with Southampton to sign Aaron Ramsdale. Newcastle offer for the 27-year-old goalkeeper is loan plus buy option. Saints to consider sell along with significant fee and purchase price, or stay, no outcome but advancing. Now, Aaron Ramsdale must be the unluckiest man alive. I mean, he is unlucky. I know some of you are wondering. You must be saying that doesn't make sense. Yes, he is the luckiest. He is the luckiest man alive. Why? Because he's so far been relegated with what? With 3 or 4 teams: Bournemouth, Southampton, Sheffield United, and on every single time that he's been relegated, he's had a Premier League team by him back. When he got relegated, I think with Sheffield United last, Arsenal bought him quite expensively for around £30 million. You know, of course, he went on to have some wonderful years at Arsenal. I think about 3 years before he got shipped out. Before he got shipped out to Southampton. Southampton got relegated last season, like we all know, and now here we are, Newcastle pursuing his signature after failing to sign James Trafford from Burnley. So that's the look of things. He is lucky that every time he gets relegated with the team, he gets signed back to the Premier League, which speaks to how good he is as a goalkeeper. He is not without his errors as an individual. Sometimes the game gets by him, but he is a very good goalkeeper, really, that I must acknowledge. Then, meanwhile, Chelsea are closing in on a deal to sign Joel Hartog from Ajax. Agreement between Chelsea and Ajax are yet to be reached, but getting nearer. Compromises expected in coming days are on price, about 40 million euros, personal terms in place for the 19-year-old Dutch defender. So, again, this is a deal that we've spoken about for quite some time. Chelsea are really pushing hard to sign Joel Hartog from Ajax. Meanwhile, they also remain in touch with RB Leipzig to try and sign Xavi Simons. You know, so it's really important or impactful and great what Chelsea are trying to do in this transfer window. Bear in mind that they've already signed Joao Pedro. They've already signed Mamadou Sarr, who was loaned back to Strasbourg. They brought in Dario Esugo, who they signed in January at Las Palmas. They brought in Liam Delap. While in the same strength, they are looking to move on players like Joao Felix, who has already traveled to meet the Al Nassr team ahead of a medical to complete that move to Al Nassr. Then they want to move on Raheem Sterling. They offered him to teams like Juventus and Napoli, among others. But yeah, things are yet to take shape. Hi, Pedri. Good to have you this afternoon. Good to have you back on the broadcast. Do us the absolute favor and like the podcast while you're still young. So, from the look of things, Chelsea will get that deal over the line for Joel Hartog, which means they add another body in defense. But like I said before, they are looking to move on some bodies from their defenders if the right offers do come in for them. Players like Axel Disasi, they are willing to listen to offers for Tosin Aderabio. So you never know. Among others. We just have to wait it out and see how that deal will close. Then Luis Diaz, according to the latest reports, is expected in Munich tomorrow. That's according to Florian Plettenberg, with Sky German saying he is expected in Munich tomorrow ahead of completing that 70 million euro move from Liverpool to the German Bundesliga giants. Of course, 70 million euros being the guaranteed fees with 5 million euros in expected advance. So let's wait that deal to close out and see how everything will transpire. Meanwhile, Sunderland are equally in a similar. Sorry, Everton, not Sunderland. Everton are in a similar situation, pretty much like Newcastle. Every player they want literally doesn't want them. They literally do not want them. Because they lost some players as free agents, the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and they are looking for replacements in the market. But so far, they are trying to sign Malik Fofana from Olympic Lyon, but that deal is not going down smoothly. Pedro, you say I think Xhaka is a one-year thing because Sunderland will get relegated and he will leave. Mariam Nalmasi says, hi, hello, good evening. Any news in Liverpool? Yes, we are talking exactly about Liverpool because Luis Diaz is expected to join Bayern Munich. Is expected, according to Sky German, they do expect the player to arrive in Munich tomorrow. That's Tuesday. Although the expectation, like we communicated in the morning for those of you that were part of our broadcast, is that he's expected to leave the Liverpool camp in Japan today to try and formalize that move to Bayern Munich, which I did say that you must acknowledge Liverpool's prowess when it comes to negotiating to sell players. Selling Luis Diaz at the age of 28 with that low turn of goals, of course, having scored 29 goals in 103 Premier League appearances, means you provided 15 assists across those different seasons. Being at the club 3.5 years, those are not the best numbers of a winger that you go out and make a financial outlay of up to 70 million euros, really. So it just doesn't come common. It just doesn't happen that way every single day. But yet here we are. We have Bayern Munich doing it, and Liverpool, I think, will be clapping their way to the bank. So that's really, really significant. Then Liverpool are preparing apparently a bid to try and sign Alexander Isak from Liverpool. We all know the Alexander Isak situation with Newcastle. And then, of course, they remain in the market to try and pursue a deal for McKay as a preferred choice for a centre back. But let's wait and see how everything will develop. The links linking them to Rodrigo Goes are yet to die down, so you never know. They could still make a move and have quite the death row of an attacking forward. Yes, Pedri, you say you think Granit Xhaka is a one-year thing. Well, he's going. If the deal does go through, he will put pen to paper on a 2-year contract. And I want to believe, like any other experienced player of his caliber, he will have an exit clause when it comes to being relegated with Sunderland. That's why you've had, for example, Aaron Ramsdale been sold off every single time his parent club got relegated. Mariam says he's coming from Uganda. Good to have you, Mariam. Well, by the way, Sunderland are really, really doing some good things in as far as the transfer window is concerned. When it comes to player recruitment, I think they've done some impressive work. Whether those signings will live up to the expectations and deliver as they hope and plan for them, and then Sunderland will be really a whole different team to handle, because Granit Xhaka does bring the kind of experience that this Sunderland side would really want to have in that team. We know about his leadership qualities, like I said. He was captain at Arsenal. He's the captain of the Switzerland national team and everything in that regard. So really, when you do your assessment and think about the deal, not that you will be want to carry a Sunderland on his shoulders, but I think they've done some good business, including signing Simon Adingra from Brighton for about £20 million, 20.5, while Habib Diarra was signed from Strasbourg to try as a replacement for Joe Bellingham, who left Sunderland. Then Enzo Liffey also signed from Roma for £20 million, while Noah Sadiq joined from Union Saint Augustine for 17.5 million pounds. Roman, apologies, Reynold, uh, Reynold Mandava from Atletico Madrid does join as a free agent, while Chesmine Talbi comes in from Club Rouge at 29 years of age. So it's been quite impressive what Sunderland have been able to do in this transfer window, even though they've lost some players that they wouldn't have loved to do. But it is what it is at this stage so far of the transfer window. Let's just wait and see what the how everything will look like at the end of it. Then Newcastle still remain in pursuit for Benjamin Sesko, and apparently they've informed RB Leipzig, not through an official bid, but in informal talks, that they are willing to pay £60 million to try and sign Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. Now we're talking about it, for overwhelming, but we are talking about a player who has been targeted by Arsenal and he didn't move. A lot of other clubs are interested in him. That's Benjamin Sesko, including Manchester United. They are really, they've spoken to the players' management camp. But nothing has yet to yield any fruition. So let's wait and see. You say Adingra, Xhaka, Reynolds, Habib Diarra, Tabi is a fantastic player. By the way, last year in the UEFA Champions League did amazingly, 6 goals. So you say 6 goals and 4 assists. I think that stands to be an impressive return on investment. If let's say if you're Sunderland getting that kind of player, but you say in the UEFA Champions League, where Strasbourg in the UEFA Champions League, where Strasbourg in the UEFA Champions League, how come I don't remember them? I do not recall them anywhere in as far as the UEFA Champions League was concerned last season. Oh, okay. You say at Club Brugge. Okay. I think those are what like those are like what just gone by. I think the player you're talking about Talabi. I thought you were talking about Habib Diarra. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I get you. Because Habib Diarra has been at Strasbourg for quite some time. But nonetheless, he also made 30 appearances in League One last season, scored 4 goals and provided 5 assists. So that's the kind of midfielder who is fully engaged in the in competitions, and not just being a good midfielder, but he adds on some couple of goals and assists. Because the 9 goal tally for a deep lying sort of midfielder or an 8 usually doesn't sound too bad. Because if I remember, Yuri Tillemans, I think scored 5 in the last campaign in the Premier League. So let's wait and see how things will look like at the end of the day. Unless you guys are saying you want to commit to trying to push for suits at the moment. Otherwise, the information continues to float in regarding transfers. I expect so many things to happen in these coming days. Like I said, in the morning we spoke about Manchester United. Right now, their focus is on pre-season, but they also remain interested in signing Benjamin Sesko. Like I said, they've spoken to the representatives. Nothing is changing so far in terms of club-to-club contact. Even Newcastle are still waiting. Apologies on those echoes. They happen when I move my mic. But I mean, when it comes to a team like Sunderland and Leeds, although essentially we wouldn't be having prayers for Leeds. Today, somebody asked me who I would rather stay in the Premier League out of the 3 that were promoted. When you look at Leeds United, when you look at Sunderland and What's the other team that was promoted? Burnley, yes. I think Leeds, in terms of pedigree, in terms of significance in the UK league, you'd rather be the ones to stay. Footballtribe, I think you should make an FPL league, and okay, you say I think you should make an EFPL league uh, and team it's really good, and your knowledge is good about football, and the game is free, and we can join the league if the fantasy Premier League I make. Okay, I'll take that under advisement and into consideration. But thank you so much. Daniel Tuton is here with us. Hi, Daniel Tuton, joining us from the UK. He's a Liverpool fan. How are you doing, Daniel? You make your best. I make my best Premier League starting 11 at the moment. In any case, even if I made it at the moment, I do not think it would differ much from what I did, what I put out for my best 11 from the Premier League last season. It was a bit of a contentious one when I put it out. People had different views, which I embraced really. So I remember I went with David Bayer in goal, although those that had alternative views were choosing Matt Sells of Nottingham Forest at the time. We know Matt Sells was really brilliant. He was a joint best goalkeeper with David Raya, both managing 13 clean sheets. But I thought overall, for me, I went with David Raya, given some of the kind of immaculate saves that he was able to pull off. Then let me answer that in a bit. So I thought that's what I went with. I remember I went with the back three, and it had Milos Kakes as one of those back three. I went with I think Virgil van Dijk and Milinkovic. That's I hope I'm pronouncing the name rightly. The Nottingham Forest defender, Milinkovic. And I mean, for me, it was really good. For people, no, no, I don't think his name is pronounced Milinkovic. I'm trying to struggle to remember the right pronunciation of the name of the player. Yes, Milinkovic. Yes, is the one I went with alongside Virgil van Dijk and Milos Kakes. And of course, for some people, it was Morillo who should have been in that team. Some people went with Morillo. Others thought it should have been William Saliba. Although I thought when Gabriel Magalhaes got injured, William Saliba did not, didn't have the best of performances going forward in some parts or spells of the season. So that's how I ended up with that back three. So it would be David Raya, Virgil van Dijk, Milinkovic. Milenkovic. Yes, Milenkovic. Nikola Milenkovic there, and Milos Kakes. It was a back three. Then I remember in the midfield, I had Declan Rice, I had Bruno Fernandes in that team. I had Cole Palmer on one of the flanks, and I had Mohamed Salah. Actually, I'm trying to remember my setup, but yeah, those are some of the players that were in. And then also, hi, Dylan Ash, good to have you back on the channel. So I also had, because I had two strikers that I went with at the end of the day. I went with Alexander Isak. I went with Chris Wood in my team. A lot of people did not add Chris Wood to their teams. I sort of do understand why, but I mean, for a striker of Chris Wood's stature to score 21 goals in a season, I thought he did really well. I thought he did really well in everything Nottingham Forest, because of the way Nottingham Forest play. They're a bit of a conservative team, and then they get you on the break, which during that break it was either Callum Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White, around whom most of the action rotated around. But I mean, Chris Wood posting those numbers, I thought was quite impressive. So I thought he deserved a place in that team. I thought he deserved a place. He scored 20 goals and provided 3 assists. Then I put him alongside Alexander Isak for posting those numbers of the numbers of 23 goals and 6 assists. That was quite impressive. Hello, LFC. Good to have you guys. Kindly like the broadcast. Please click that like button. But thank you so much for being here this evening. And then again, but in that midfield, there's a player. There was a Liverpool player amongst them. I'm forgetting, but there was a Liverpool player amongst them. But in any case, I think because I did not go with Brian Gravenberch in the holding midfield role, I chose Declan Rice to play, I think, alongside Alexis McAllister, and then I had, was it McAllister, by the way? Most probably. But then I had Bruno Fernandes in that mix. I had Cole Palmer. I had Mohamed Salah. Yes, that's how I did set up. I had a double pivot I think I had a double pivot. Declan Rice being, was it? I'm mixing something, but that's how my Premier League team would look like, essentially. But present day, based on the signings that have come in, I do not think I would change much so far. I think I would stick with David Ryan Cole. In terms of defense, now, judging on what I do expect, let's say, to come next season, I think I would have at least one of the Arsenal defenders. I would go with Gabriel Magalhaes, maybe. And then for left back, I would continue with Milos Kerkez. I thought he was really good. Virgil van Dijk, I've not been impressed with what I've so far seen in pre-season. So I would have a little bit of reservations earlier, but then it begs the question, who do you go with? That's why I would stick with Nikola Milinkovic. So to play alongside maybe Gabriel Magalhaes. And then in that midfield, I think I would start with Ryan Gravenberch. I mean, he did really impressively well for Liverpool. It's not to throw shade to any of the other great midfielders that there is. Martin Zubimendi has looked good in pre-season, but we are yet to watch him in a Premier League context. Although that game against Newcastle was pure Premier League context, but I think we need to see him consistently for us to decide whether he fits the bill. Of course, I would be torn between maybe a Bruno Guimaraes, because Bruno Guimaraes is one of the other very impressive players. And then you look at Moises Caicedo, of how he's now sort of well fitted into that Chelsea side. Then I would play alongside him. I think I would go with Declan Rice alongside Ryan Gravenberch, because Declan Rice has added more goals to his game in those 2 seasons he's been at Arsenal, and then we saw once in a while he pop up with a couple of assists there. Then I'll have in that team going forward, I think I'll have Mohamed Salah. I'll have Cole Palmer somewhere in that team. I think I'll go with Florian Wirtz, and then I'll go with Alexander Isak at the top. That's how many. Yeah, that's how I'll basically set up. I think that completes the team, unless I left out a single body. But that's how I would set up. But of course, if it were to be the Fantasy Premier League, putting up such a team would mean that you'd have already run out of resources. Yeah, but thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, guys, for the engagement you're having. Okay, I think we spoke about that. I don't know. I'm missing. It looks like I'm missing some comments on my end. But let me see. Okay. Yeah, some comments are not coming through as I would expect them on this side. But let me try and read every single comment that has come through. Daniel Tuton is asking, do you remember me? Most definitely. Daniel Tuton, the Liverpool fan there. Then you say, okay, I think I read that. And I've given my best 11. I've given my best 11. Okay. Let me see. How are you doing today? I'm doing good, Daniel. I hope you're doing well. You're okay as well, guys. Kindly like the broadcast. Then I see I have Dylan. Dylan, by the way, Dylan is one of our usual suspects. Although sometimes he just says hi, stays for a couple of minutes and runs off. But we do appreciate him as well. So thank you so much, Dylan. Mr. Pedri, I think your analysis suits how Fantasy Premier League works. Please make a Fantasy Premier League. Okay, I'll take that under consideration. And you say yes, it's back. LFC is another Liverpool fan, one of our very usual suspects. I have to go because we are going to my cup final. Oh wow, you're even playing in a cup tournament, Daniel. We wish you the very best of luck, you with your respective team, whoever you and every single guys out there that you may be playing with, whether it is you playing or you're just a spectator, regardless of the context. I will do wish you the very best. But yeah, really, that's the look of things. But guys, what do you think about Newcastle signing Aaron Ramsdale? I've always thought that he's a very good goalkeeper. He has his mistakes sometimes, but when you look at what he was at Arsenal, he hadn't done much fault really before David Bayer was brought in. But overall, I think we can all agree that David Bayer is a better goalkeeper than he is. But oftentimes, there's not much you fault Aaron Ramsdale for. In all the teams he's played for, of course, Arsenal were the biggest, were the strongest, were the better defensively. Because for some of the goals you may have seen him, let's say, concede at Southampton, at Sheffield United, at FC Bournemouth, at the time when all those teams got relegated, I mean, they were one of the worst defenses that there was, because sometimes a goalkeeper is as good as their defense. Of course, they can get to do more. For example, for those of you that do remember, you remember a couple of seasons or times when David De Gea was Manchester United's best player, and people used to sing praise of David De Gea, well deservedly, but they forgot that every time David De Gea was being their Manchester United's best player of the season, it meant that their midfield and their defense were poor. That's basically what it meant. That's what basically it meant. Is Ramsdale confirmed? No, he's not confirmed, but Newcastle are in talks with Southampton to try and sign him. Their proposal is an initial loan deal with an option / obligation to buy, depending on what the negotiations will boil down to, while Southampton would prefer to sell, or they would rather receive a significant loan fee. So that news was broken by the Athletic of David Austin. This session, I scored 26 goals. Wow. Then you should be vying to play in TV, in the semi-professional league. That's is it North Conference, South Conference, and then maybe you can rise the ranks through the English League 2, League 1, and maybe you never know. You could find yourself in the championship sometime and subsequently in the top levels. And that's if time is on your side. For those of you that do forget, Eberechi Eze has sort of had that sort of relative path, really, because when he got released at Arsenal at the age of 13, things were a bit difficult for him. He ended up, I think, with Fulham, had a stint with Ipswich Town, ended up at Queen's Park Rangers, was loaned out to Wakome, and yeah, before he returned to QPR, Queen's Park Rangers, where he played for 2 seasons, and in his final season, 2018-2019, that's when he caught the attention of Crystal Palace, and they signed him for 18 million euros. And I do think they have a future sell on clause of about 20%, for which, by the way, Arsenal really considering making a move for Eberechi Eze. Then the other thing, for those of you that are following the conversation, Arsenal found themselves with a big question. Where is Noni Madueke going to play in the wake of Max Dorman's brilliance? I don't know if you guys have seen some of the commentary around the 15-year-old Arsenal youngster called Max Doman. And if you do rate him in any way, of course, he's only featured in 2 senior games. There's not much really to judge him upon, but based on what in particular we saw in that Newcastle game, he looks a very, very promising talent. Then the other question I've been asked multiple times is, do Liverpool need Alexander Isak? Now, the easy answer is yes, but I would say it's a yes and no question. It depends on how you look at it. The reason as why I say no, for example, why I would say no, is that you've already spent on a striker like Hugo Ekitike, and you get to move on Darwin Núñez. Then what does it also mean for the young strikers coming through the Liverpool academy? If you're going to have a 23-year-old, a 25-year-old for strikers at the club. But that all aside, for the years part, when you're a team the caliber of Liverpool and you want to rival the big boys, you want to compete for the Champions League title season in, season out, the way Real Madrid have done in years gone by, when you want to dominate the Premier League, you do go and have, multiple players that are really, really good. People forget that at some point, Manchester United had, they had Wayne Rooney, they had Ruud van Nistelrooy. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy, Rooney comes in and then eventually van Nistelrooy exits. He joins Real Madrid. But they had Carlos Tevez at the same time. They had Luis Saha at the same time. Those were all good strikers, by the way, at the time. MD Ashik, hello to you too. Good to have you on the broadcast. It's been a while since you were last here, but I hope you're doing well, my brother. So then, I mean, you look at teams. You remember when Chelsea were winning under Jose Mourinho, when they were winning the Premier League back to back. They had Didier Drogba. They had Joe Cole. Of course, Joe Cole was predominantly a 10. They had Damian Duff. They had Edu Good Johnson. So for Liverpool to go ahead and sign Alexander Isak and add him their ranks, even when they have Darwin Núñez and Hugo Ekitike, it all boils down to how the manager tinkers them and plays with them. Go back to Barcelona when in 2007 when they signed Thierry Henry from Arsenal. They still had Samuel Eto'o Fields. They had Lionel Messi, and then when they made changes, they swapped out Samuel Eto'o for Zlatan Ibrahimovic when Samuel Eto'o went to Inter Milan. But even when Samuel Eto'o went to Inter Milan also had Diego Milito, So having two brilliant strikers in the same team is not an issue. So let's not try to paint a picture for people like as if Newcastle were to sign Alexander Isak, then suddenly one is going to be frozen out. You never know. Liverpool could come on a good day against a weaker team and decide to play a traditional 4-4-2, where you have a midfield of, let's say, Ryan Gravenberch alongside Dominic Szoboszlai or Alexis McAllister, and then you have maybe Florian Wirtz because he can play on the wings, and then Mohamed Salah on one side, and then you have your double pivot, your double twin of Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. And then we also know Hugo Ekitike can also drift on the wings. So depending on what iterations you make, you could slot Florian Wirtz to play as a half 10, while Hugo Ekitike drifts a bit to the wide, and then Alexander Isak is at the top with Mohamed Salah on the other side. So, I mean, then you could also decide to play maybe the way Pep Guardiola was playing with these two goalkeepers, were really, really good in Claudio Bravo and his name is eluding me. Please remind me, the former Barcelona goalkeeper, Alves. Yes, was it Alves? Kindly remind me, somebody, if you have the name of your fingertips. It is eluding me at the moment. So, but one was playing in the Spanish La Liga, and the other used to play in the UEFA Champions League. That's how he played, because he had two good goalkeepers that he did not want to let go at the time. So it wouldn't be bad for Liverpool to sign Alexander Isak. Yes, Victor Valdes. Yes, thank you so much, Pedri. So he had that, and then still, when you go back to all those teams that have gone on to win major titles, usually they've had more than one striker. go back to Real Madrid. When by the time they won the La Decima, the UEFA Champions League 10th title, they had Gonzalo Higuain, Karim Benzema. You remember that period when they also had his ex-on later Kaka in that team, having signed him from AC Milan. They found themselves with too many good players. You remember when they signed Asia Iraramendi, and then suddenly it didn't work out because there were so many people in that team. Sami Khedira was still available. Xabi Alonso was still available. So eventually he could not get sufficient playing time. So while that, it boils down to the manager on how he can play well with this team. And you've seen Pep Guardiola. He's had so many good players between 2018 and about 2023, and he was able to rotate those players. That's why you would have a very on form Phil Foden be rested for 2-3 games, and people were complaining, and then he could come back and be, well rested and firing again. Riyad Mahrez. Sometimes people would forget that they even have Riyad Mahrez. You could look at that Manchester City bench, and it was so rich in talent. Even present day, it still is. Look at Barcelona right now. You have Ferran Torres, you have Robert Lewandowski, you have Marcus Rashford, you have Rafinha, you have Lamine Yamal, you have Fermin Lopez, who can equally play further up front. So you say, here's a suggestion to make the channel better. I think you have to make this more engaging to fans, because it sometimes feels like it gets boring. Maybe do like quizzes, votes, or preferably FPL, especially on lives. We can always do that. But I try to be as engaging as possible when I read people's comments and respond to their questions. Maybe there's a question I know I didn't answer, but I just wanted to answer that question that people have been really asking me in recent times, whether Liverpool really do need Alexander Isak. My simple answer is a yes, that they do need a player like him. Let me see. Okay. But in regards to the Fantasy Premier League, that we will look to do something. After all, the season is yet to begin. Okay. I'm trying to flip through and see if there's any comment I may have missed during the course of the podcast. But yeah, Raheem Sterling, Pedri. I heard from Joan Laporta was saying that Barcelona were done. Were done bringing in new players. Do you think they are really done, or that is just a ruse to sell people off? And by the way, when it comes to Barcelona's finances, do they have room to sign players, but also to register them with La Liga? When we know the restrictions that there is with La Liga in regards to the percentage of wages, vis-a-vis how much you're bringing in terms of revenue. How much room do Barcelona have to sort of play within? Mike Hawk. Mike Hawk is I'm not well conversant with Mike Hawk, so I won't lie to you. Really, he's not a player I've heard much about, so I can't lie about that. That I do not trust Laporta as much as he likes to talk too soon. Okay, but and then in regards to the overall finances, we know Barcelona have struggled with finances for quite a bit of time, especially in the during the COVID and post-COVID era. They've sort of struggled with that to the extent that by the time Gerard Piqué left the club still owed him some money. We all remember when they wanted to move on Frenkie de Jong. It was not because Frenkie de Jong was a bad player. It was because they wanted to sort of reduce on their wage bill burden, and because at the time he was not willing to take a pay cut to stay at the club. We had all those conversations. I mean, by the way, Frenkie de Jong is one of those players, again, who goes unnoticed in a game. Unnoticed how? In that at the end of the game, he may not get all the hips and praises that you may often give to a player, but he is so good he is so intelligent. The way he holds that midfield, he makes other people, good. He has those small quicks and turns. Usually the half turns, and he looks so good. And every time I've watched him with Barcelona, it reminds me of the time when Man United were trying to sign him. When Louis van Gaal had just come at Manchester United, he wanted to sign him. Even though they had initially signed Donny van de Beek, and things eventually did not work out for him at Manchester United, he ended up going to Girona. So everyone thinks Barcelona is broke, but the actual fact is that we have a lot of money, but La Liga's rules on spending the money is too strict. Tabs is the worst man on the earth. He makes La Liga worse so far. All teams besides Barca, Real Madrid, and Athletic Madrid. Why? But I feel like I think, okay, here's what happened. According to what you're saying, is Barcelona have the money, and usually I'm led to believe it's more like when a wealthy man goes broke. When a wealthy man goes broke, he usually they stay rich. They do not go broke, like broke as broke. So basically, that's how I want to view Barcelona. You remember when you guys went into the stadium redevelopment to upgrade the stadium around then COVID, when with the absence of funds, there's a bit of struggles financially there. But also, I think you sold your, was it TV rights, to try and raise revenue to help with player wages, and to help with the redevelopment, and see, when it comes to that destroying La Liga, I think all leagues have adopted a model of some bit of financial control when it comes to how clubs spend. And while I may not agree with it entirely, I certainly respect the school of thought. But also, what it has done is that it has instead, because the intention was to try and narrow the gaps amongst big teams. For example, so that one day we wake up and suddenly maybe Valencia, Sevilla, Espanyol, Rayo Vallecano, maybe Athletic Bilbao are competing with Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, and Real Madrid in terms of spending power. But because you have these giants constantly playing in the UEFA Champions League, they get to bring in more revenue that all these other clubs that are not playing in those competitions do not have access to. And yet you're telling them and their respective owners that you can't just come and throw money into the club. Look at Newcastle, for example. It's a prime example. Acquired by the Saudis, who have all the financial resources that they would have wanted to deploy, the way the Qataris came in at Manchester City and poured in a lot of money, signed the Sami Nasri, Adebayo, Kolo Toure, Robinho, Robson de Souza, and all the good players that they signed at the time to make Manchester City what it does eventually become. So I believe that it leaves a huge gap between the small teams and the big teams. That's the strategic. You say that's the strategic work. Okay. Yes, you say that's the strategical work because many teams sell shares of the club for the future use because transfer fees are slowly getting crazier. Imagine prime Cristiano Ronaldo was bought for the same fee as Ekitike. Now, yes, the transfer fees are really, really crazy because when we go back to 2009 and Real Madrid are buying Cristiano Ronaldo for 80 million pounds, which we thought was astronomical at the time. Today, it's nothing. Today, 80 million pounds gets you an average player. It doesn't get you a world-class player. And yet, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, it was getting you a world-class player. You remember when Neymar left Barcelona to go and join PSG when they paid that, release clause, 220 million euros. That in itself was astronomical, but I know for a fact that as La Liga teams often put exaggerated release clauses to try and fend off any future interest from fellow European big clubs. That's why you hear players having, 1 billion euros as release clauses in their contracts. Of course, no same club is going to come and pay 1 billion euros at that juncture. They would rather come and try and negotiate the fee. And even if they were to negotiate, again, they would still not come in at 500 million euros. So, but once PSG did that, they opened a can of worms, really. Remember, they also went to Monaco and got Kylian Mbappe on loan after helping Monaco, I think, win the French League title in 2016 under Leandro Jadimo. That Monaco that had Benjamin Mendy, that had Fabinho, that had Timeo Bakayoko. That was, the Monaco of the time. So they got him on an initial loan, and then eventually bought him for about 180 something million pounds. So really, those two transfers sent things wild. So present day, I can imagine what a prime Cristiano Ronaldo, if we brought time forward with Cristiano Ronaldo remaining at the age that he was at Man United, if Real Madrid wanted to sign him, he would be going for no less than 300 million pounds. He would be going for no less than that, really. Because look at Ekitike, what has he done? One brilliant season with RB Leipzig, 22 goals and 12 assists across all competitions, 15 of those coming in the Bundesliga with 8 assists. Those are not numbers that get you an 18 million pound more, but it is what it is. So Isaac Dizinats or Isaac the Snats. Who is Isaac the Snats? Kindly indulge me on this one. So I mean, if for example, if today a club came into Barcelona to bid for Lamine Yamal, how much do you think Barcelona would ask for? Just take the assumption that Barcelona would be willing to sell or to entertain a bid for a player like Lamine Yamal. How much do you think they are going to ask for? Given how brilliant we've already seen he is. I think the fee is going to be astronomical. If you went to Real Madrid and tried to sign Vinicius Junior, if you went to Real Madrid present day and tried to sign Jude Bellingham or Kylian Mbappe, I think the figures you're going to get are going to be mind-boggling. But like I said, all these restrictions, especially when it comes to how much money clubs can borrow, how much club owners can inject in. I mean, for me, it begs the question: what kind of business do you invest in when you're not allowed to actually invest in capital? Because basically, football is a business. At the end of the day, these clubs are run as businesses. That's why we are having these rules of profit and sustainability rules in the Premier League. That's why we have those rules in La Liga. Why? Because eventually the minders of these leagues do not want, let's say, teams to perform poorly business-wise, and eventually they collapse, because we've seen business empires collapse. I know that's the overarching objective for these rules and stuff. But let's not forget this. Usually, when you acquire a business, depending on its performance, it would determine how much you invest in the business. Whether you're going to invest that in marketing, whether for a football club that means bringing in a good coach, bringing in good players. I mean, how did Man City get here? Because a group of people bought the club and invested directly in it. You remember at the time they had the manager was Mark Hughes at the time, and I remember saying this to colleagues, and by that time I was still back in school, in high school, and I told my colleagues that, look, at the end of the day, Mark Hughes is not going to be able to manage this kind of talent, because there's a game where he tried to substitute Craig Bellamy, and Craig Bellamy refused to come off, and he was pointing at Robinson Souza to say it is him that he has to come off. He had so many good players that I thought, I didn't think he had worth it in him to manage that kind of talent. Cheers, Edits. Chase Edits. Hi, how are you doing? Good to have you on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here. A recommended movie in this is that Insidious? Okay. She says me smokes cigarettes. He's so cold. Yeah, he's a good smoker. Reminds me of the former Chelsea manager Mauricio Sarri, who is, I think, is back at Lazio. He's back at Lazio. Big smoker. Yeah. So he is well known for that. He's well known for that. But let's hope it never affects his performance or health going in the future, because he's been a very good servant of the game, a very good servant of the game at Juventus, at Arsenal, and now at Barcelona. And by the way, I remember I remember when he was signed to Barcelona, of course, coming out of retirement, because he thought, I think to himself, he thought there's no club worth joining after leaving Juventus that were possibly offering him, to continue playing. And yet Barcelona came out of the blue, of course, following that injury to Marc-Andre ter Stegen, to say, come and play for us. And look, he just put pen to paper on a new 2-year contract. And he couldn't have been any better. Even if Barcelona woke up and wanted to rip that contract apart, he would get paid some money before he returns back to his retirement duties, and break. But yeah. So I've seen reports linking Barcelona with the potential move for a Premier League player, which I thought were sort of wide of the mark. Gabriel Jesus, yes. Barcelona being linked with the potential move for Gabriel Jesus. Do people in Uganda smoke? Yeah. There are people who smoke. Although for us, smoking is not allowed in public places. You may find 1 or 2 persons doing it, but it will be against the law. It's not allowed to smoke in a public place. I do not know about you guys. So, for example, we do not expect you to find you smoking in a bus park, in a car park, if that makes sense to you. For us, we have centers where you go to board a taxi, and our taxis are mini buses or mini vans, where it loads up to 14 passengers. So not like in Europe, where usually people are, hopping into Uber. For them, it's either Uber or a bus or a metro. That's, the trains and stuff like that. So, but yeah, people do smoke. It's that kind of habit. I do not know. I used to have a friend who used to smoke, and in a day would smoke a full packet of cigarettes. And I used to wonder, what are you deriving in this? But you never know. You never know. Anyways, I have a question for you. I have some questions. Okay, what is your predictions for La Liga next season? Who do you think will win it? Do you think Barcelona will defend it? Do you think Real Madrid are going to regain the championship? Do you think Atletico Madrid, with all the transfer business they are doing, they're going to have a say about it? Because they brought in Alex Baena, they brought in Matteo Lopetegui from Atlanta, that's the left back. They brought in Alex Baena from Villarreal, Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis. Of course, they're still active in the market. They've let go of Saúl Ñíguez, Rodrigo De Paul, Koke. I think Koke signed a contract extension to stay for about some time. There's a couple of players that they've let go with. Oh, your prediction is Real Madrid will finish third. Okay. And by the way, it's not too wild a thought. Thinking of how Xabi Alonso, I think we're all waiting to see how Xabi Alonso competes with the rest of La Liga. Really, how he does compete with the rest of La Liga, especially with those giants. But more importantly, how he assembles his team, how he gets Real Madrid to play more as a team, as opposed to the egoism that lies within their forward players, especially with the likes of Vinicius Junior, Kylian Mbappe, and Rodrigo Goes. Jude Bellingham is a bit of a cool-headed guy, so I'm really eager to see how he assembles that team. You say third place is Villarreal, Osasuna. Wow, that's huge, putting Osasuna in 50th place. Athletic Bilbao, okay. So that means Girona not returning, never returning to the high levels. 53, 59, Shamail, Yellow. Hi, how are you doing? Good to have you on the broadcast. Kindly leave us a like on the broadcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. if you're new here, but I mean, that's rich coming from you when you say that would be your prediction, for let's see how last season things stood like. But putting Osasuna that high, mm, even above Villarreal, what makes you put Osasuna above Villarreal? Sorry, above Atletico Bilbao. Is this a football stream? Yes, please. It is a football stream. Feel free to ask any questions. I will get to discuss the Premier League and beyond. Of course, a bit of La Liga, and all giant teams. Osasuna is a good team. Okay, that I do not deny. But for a team that finished 9 last season, for you to put them as high as that, fifth, then how about Real Betis? How about Real Betis? Why do you think they finished? Could Valencia bounce back? What's happening with Sevilla, particularly Sevilla and Valencia? Those are two teams we've known traditionally to be part of the strong group. They used to finish within the first 6. What's happened to Sevilla and Valencia in the last couple of years? Of course, we know Valencia building their stadium, I think, and those kinds of things. But is it to do with finances? What's really going wrong? Because they've had so many managerial changes in a short span of time and things of that nature. Okay, you add on, I can see you're adding on Mallorca, you're adding on Sevilla 8th. Okay, that would be a huge step, bouncing back into the right direction. Betis 7th. But you're repeating Sevilla, you're putting them 10th and 8th. So which is which? Do you think Arsenal will win the Premier League? I think they are capable of winning the Premier League. I'm yet to really decide, and the reason as to why I'm yet to make my prediction on who will win the Premier League is because the transfer window is still ongoing. I do not know what players are going to leave Arsenal. I do not know what more they are looking to bring in. But I think they are looking very, very capable. They've added in good players in terms of quality, but also to expound on their squad depth. Last season, they struggled with a narrow squad. That narrow squad cost them every time they had injuries. When they had injuries to Martin Odegaard, their creativity suffered. When Bukayo Saka got injured, when Gabriel Magalhaes got injured, they struggled, in defense. When Kai Havertz got injured, they struggled for goals. They had to rely on Mikel Merino and that kind of thing. So now that you look at, they've added on Martin Zubimendi replacing Thomas Partey, they brought in Christian Nogat to replace Jorginho as a squad player. When you look at Noni Madueke coming in as a backup for Bukayo Saka, and yet Max Dorman is also asking questions to try and find a slot in that team. As then you look at, they are looking to bring in a left winger. They are interested in signing Eberechi Eze. So if they bring him in, it makes the team stronger in terms of squad depth. They brought in Victor Gyökeres. They've not had a striker in ages. For me, the last striker the Arsenal signed was Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, because Gabriel Jesus is a hybrid of a striker. He's a more fluid Roberto Firmino. That's how I look at it. You say Victor Gyökeres will score 10,000 goals. I do not think it will be that many, but I certainly do think that if you see, the sooner he scores, the sooner his confidence will carry on. But I think he will score the goals because Arsenal are good at creating the chances, especially when you have Bukayo Saka available, when you have Martin Odegaard available. You say, what's my favorite formation? My favorite formation is a 4-3-3, really. But again, it has to be fluid in the sense that the third midfielder has to be very, very advanced in the way they play. And the reason as to why I fell in love with the 4-3-3 was particularly because of Barcelona. When Pep Guardiola was with that team, playing with Sergio Busquets, Xavi, and Iniesta, and then Messi, Pedro, and David Silva, was it? David Villa, yes. That cohort. I really, really fell in love with the 4-3-3. at the time. Then you say, and no chance of Manchester City winning. I do not think Man City will win the Premier League title. Yes, they have a very good manager, very capable. We've all seen what he's done over the years. They could surprise us and rise to the occasion because they only finished third. You remember last season, but one, that was 2023-2024, Liverpool finished third with 28 points. And we thought coming into last season and predicted they would finish third again, and yet they surprised us and finished, above everybody else and won the Premier League title. So, but I think that Manchester City in that phase where Jurgen Klopp left Liverpool, really, when he had started doing the rebuild, when they brought in McAllister, Dominic Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch, Luis Diaz, Diego Jota, Cody Gakpo, when they brought in all those players, Darwin Núñez, they were in the process of rebuild after winning the Premier League title in 2020 and the Champions League title in 2019. So they let go of Gini Wijnaldum, Sadio Mane eventually left, Roberto Firmino eventually left, Fabinho eventually left. So I think Manchester City are in that phase because previously they've lost Ilkay Gundogan and returned back. They've lost, KDB, Kevin De Bruyne. They've lost Riyad Mahrez. Kyle Walker is exiting. Jack Wilshere has been told to find a new club. Really, you see there are clubs that want to sign Ederson Moraes, and Galatasaray is one of those teams. So you look, Man City are now a team in transition. They are transitioning from that old guard that won 4 Premier League consecutive titles into a new team that gets on with the next generation. And by the way, apparently, according to some reports, part of the reason as to why Florian Wirtz chose not to go to Manchester City is because Pep Guardiola wouldn't guarantee his future at the club beyond 2027. That was apparently part of the reason. Then, according to Pedri, he says he sees Manchester City as number 1, Liverpool number 2, Chelsea number 3, Arsenal number 4, Tottenham number 6, Aston Villa. Sorry, Tottenham number 5, Aston Villa 6, 7, Manchester United. I think I'll disagree with you on that in terms of the rankings. But that's your view. I well respected. Who will win the UEFA Champions League? UEFA Champions League. I think Barcelona will come close. I think Barcelona will be one of the teams. Bayern Munich could be a much better team next season. There could be a much better team next season. A team to beat. Bayern Munich, Barcelona. I'm thinking one of those two could win it. I do not see a way PSG defend it. Not that they are not capable, but when was the last time you had an inaugural winner defend the title again? So then I think Arsenal will win every possible trophy. Isn't it a little too much to ask? Well, it's the expectation. It will be the hope. It will be the wish. But unfortunately, I do not see it happening. Because do you know what it takes to win all major trophies? You win the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League title, and UEFA Champions League title. Do you know what it takes? You have to have a squad that is so good that if you withdraw Martin Zubimendi, whoever you replace him with is just as good or even better. If you withdraw Bukayo Saka, the replacement is just as good or even better. That if you lost Victor Gyökeres, then Kai Havertz coming in should be just as good, and that kind of thing. And given Mikel Arteta's lack of experience in guiding teams to titles beyond the FA Cup, really, that's where I have my reservations. But let's hope it all works out the way you wish it to be. Then you say, who will sign Rodrigo, in your opinion? By the way, and I've said this before, I was speaking about this over the weekend, that me, I would rather Arsenal sign Rafael Leao as opposed to signing Rodrigo Goes. And Pedri here was telling me we should let Rafael Leao go to Barcelona instead. Well, AC Milan do not want to sell him. In fact, during these pre-season friendlies against Arsenal, he was given the captain's armband. Maximiliano Allegri has come out to point out that they do not want to sell him. He's a very, very good, capable player. When I look at his off-the-ball work, when I look at his physicality, I think he will be better suited to the Premier League as compared to Rodrigo Goes. So that's why I would prefer him over the Brazilian. Although the Brazilian is naturally more talented than Rafael Leao, I'll choose the Portuguese international over him. So, but let's wait and see. But in recent times, Arsenal seem to have cooled down their interest in Rodrigo Goes. Then you say, who will sign Carlos Baleba? Carlos Baleba has been heavily linked with the potential move to Manchester United, but I do not know why Liverpool are not throwing their hat in the ring to try and sign Carlos Baleba. He's so good on the ball. He's really, really so good. He's like he's like a junior N'Golo Kante of some sort. But he's been heavily linked with Manchester United, although no team has made an approach for Carlos Baleba. You say bye-bye. As Arsenal aren't winning anything, your manager Legit says, trust the process. It's been 5 whole years. Arteta is shite. I think at the time when he said trust the process, that was the time when he had just walked in. Look at where that team was, and in his debut campaign, which was a half season, when he won the FA Cup, look at the kind of squad he had. Shkodran Mustafi, Socrates Pastatopoulos, he had, of course, David Luiz. You had players like Sid Kolasinac. You had Lucas Torreira. You had Matteo Guendouzi. You know, that kind of cohort of players. And he finished 8th. And even in his first debut campaign, when they didn't sign many players, because I think they brought in William Borges de Silva. Then they signed David Luiz was already there from Chelsea. Then Gabriel Magalhaes was one of the players they did sign. After he had also signed Pablo Mari in January, and that process has not climaxed at the time I think he hoped it would, but I think it has come close, which is not credit, but looking where he's come from, where he's risen Arsenal from, I think he deserves plenty of credit. If Arsenal let go of Mikel Arteta today, trust me, there'll be a great deal of teams looking at him as a potential replacement for some of the managers they already have. But yeah, the project is yet to bear fruit. He's going to look for trophies. Liverpool do not need Baleba. I think they need him. I think they need a backup for Ryan Gravenberch. Remember, naturally, Gravenberch is an 8. And although he's played effectively in that deep lying role, I think they do need a backup beyond Wataru Endo. Then you say, so who is your favorite for the Premier League title? Like I said, guys, for now, it will be Liverpool. For now, it will be Liverpool to defend the Premier League title. But I'm waiting for the transfer window to close down. I'll be giving my season predictions before the season begins. But they will again be subject. They will have that disclaimer, subject to change depending on how the window closes. Because you could wake up and, and you've lost a significant player. Maybe Liverpool have added some 3 good players. Just imagine if Liverpool added Mark Gahey, they added a Carlos Baleba, they signed a Rodrigo Goes. That changes things. Maybe they signed Alexander Isak. That changes things with the context, doesn't it? It would change their context. Just imagine if Manchester United went and got Carlos Baleba and they added in a good goalkeeper, it would change their context in regards to, I think, present day that they are likely to finish. But I think they are capable of finishing within the top 10. Given what I saw against West Ham, the way they were, pressing on the ball with the front three of Rasmus Højlund, Bruno Fernandes, and Matheus Cunha, the way they were leading that press, forcing West Ham to go wide, and as soon as they went wide, the wing backs in Amadou Diallo and what's his name, and Patrick Togu were closing those spaces down. Then the 2 midfielders in Manelo Ugarte and Kobe Maino really, really denied them space. And in fact, it was West Ham trying to build from the back that they considered the second goal, because Alfonso Ariola, he had his defenders pressed so hard that he couldn't play in either of them. So he decided to go for a longer pass down the path of midfield. And Kobe Maino intercepted that and played in Bruno Fernandes, who then went on to score. Then You say, oh, just for the laugh, 77. So who is your favorite? Okay, I've answered that. Hi, just for the laughs, 77. He's one of our semi-regular suspects. He had gone AWOL for a couple of days, if not more than a week. Your blazing team, Arsenal signs random players every season. I do not think they sign random players. I think they've been intentional in the transfer window. In any case, let me see a random player that Arsenal signed. Maybe Albert Sambilo Kong and Fabio Vieira, just because they were not really predominantly known to the rest of the footballing world. Those were surprise signings and they've not worked out. So, but all signings can be misses. They can be either hits or misses. We've seen that even with the most experienced of players when signed. Then they are not trying hard enough to win. I think they've tried, especially in 2022-2023. I think they really tried, but they fell off due to inexperience because they led that Premier League table for more than 200 days. Then you look at 2023-2024, that title went to the wire. It went to the final day. You remember, the Man City won it by a gap of 2 points at 91 when Arsenal finished at 89. 89 points last season would have won a Premier League title because Liverpool won it at 84. Then, so really, I do not really want to water them down that much. I disagree with you. They do not need Baleba because they have Endo, Soboslai, and Morton. So there is no need for him because Conor Bradley can play there because Slot liked him in that position. So no to the need for Baleba. Now, the reason as to why you mentioned Morton there, I always have my reservations about young players. Why? Because young players, first of all, are inexperienced. You see, I do not know if you remember some spell in Arsenal, in Arsenal's time when Arsene Wenger was still there. A lot of time they were cost due to lack of experience for youngsters. They had so many young players, and even that very season when Mikel Arteta tried to push for the title. Now, a player like Morton, he could come in and have a good game, a good couple of games. But when it comes to demanding for consistency, game in, game out, that's where I feel they fall short. And you can hardly blame it on them because they do not have that experience, because the game has been closed down so much that it's become a game of fine margins. For Liverpool fans, they know this two-way, because twice they missed out on the Premier League title by just 1 point. By just 1 point like this. So they know that it's a game of fine margins. So usually when you're deploying young players as your primary backups, yes, they have Wataru Endo. But this is what I tried to say yesterday. You get to this to start the season. Suddenly Ryan Gravenberch gets injured for 3-4 months. Can Wataru Endo offer you that consistency, game in, game out, for those 4 months as you wait for Ryan Gravenberch to return? While he is capable of doing it, I do not think he will be able to deliver it at the end of the day. And then that will push you to players like Morton. And then you get to a Champions League game and get rewarded, just because you have holes in that midfield. So for a team that is looking for European domination, for a team that wants Premier League domination, I think Carlos Baleba is steps ahead of Morton, regardless of how much up, Anna Slot could appreciate him as a young player. Then Arsenal should sign big players. Like what big players? Mention the big players that you think Arsenal should be signing, that they are not signing, because I think Martin Zubimendi is not a small player. I do not think Victor Gyökeres is a small player. I do not think Noni Madueke is a small player. I do not think Kai Havertz is a small player. When they signed Gabriel Jesus, I did not think he was a small player. No was Zinchenko, no was Ben White, no Of course, William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes were just coming up in the ranks in the French League One. David Villa was a big, good goalkeeper. So, what big players are you suggesting? Are you suggesting that they go to Real Madrid and sign Kylian Mbappe? That they go to Barcelona and try to sign Pedri? Are those the big players that you're talking about? That they go to PSG and try and sign Kivicha Kvaratskhelia or Desiree Doué? Are those the big players we are talking about in this particular case? You know, you also mentioned just for the last says I do not see Rodrigo coming in if Isak signs. Well, it could be a choice between both, but Liverpool prefer signing Alexander Isak. You never know. But remember, Luis Diaz is leaving for Bayern Munich, so it depends on how they assess their priorities. Then Roy Tampan says Liverpool need a centre back. Konate leaves next season. Yes, we spoke about the centre back. We spoke about Mark Gay. They were also interested in Joel Hato, but that one looks destined for a move to Chelsea. You say, trust me, Liverpool do not need to splash the cash for Baleba this window. Pedri, you forget that before Moises Caicedo went to Chelsea, Liverpool were willing to pay at least £100 million for Moises Caicedo. So they knew they needed a deep lying midfielder. You remember in the same transfer window, they bid for Romeo Lavia from Southampton, and he ended up at Chelsea. You forget that last summer they tried to push to sign Martin Zubimendi. So which player have they signed to solve those needs? Those needs have not gone away. It's just because they won the Premier League last season and competed well at the group stages of the UEFA Champions League that suddenly we are being led to believe that maybe they are better than they actually are. But they need to close those spaces. Like I said, it's a game of fine margins. So let's not forget those contexts. Then you say, just for the last, says he won't leave next season. He will either sign a new contract or leave this season. Well, let's wait and see. But if you're Liverpool, what would you rather do? Would you rather sell a player of his experience and risk not getting the desired replacement just because you do not want to lose him for free? I think the only way Liverpool lets go of Ibrahim Konate is if they have secured a replacement first. But remember, they also lost a backup in Joel Quensha, and yet Joe Gomez missed even that game against AC Milan through injury. So he's unreliable. So they need a backup already. They need a backup before even they consider moving on Ibrahim Konate again. So their need for numbers in defense are well, valid. So then exactly, I agree with you, Royal Tampan. Mr. Tribe says you need Baleba. Tell him you don't. Well, I mean, we're just having a difference of opinion. I do respect your opinions that you do not think that Liverpool need Baleba. My personal view is that they do need him, but it's all well. Then you say McAllister, Endo, Gravenberch, Martin, Curtis Jones, Soboslai can all play there. Again, all these players were available when Liverpool tried to move for the same players that I've listed in Zubimendi, Moises Caicedo, or Romeo Lavia. Those players were at the club. So let's not forget that. Then you made Gabriel Jesus and Havertz stink. Kai Havertz has had has played better football at Arsenal than he did at Chelsea. Now, because he scored that goal in 2021, the UEFA Champions League final against Man City, and they won the UEFA Champions League title, people forget how, Chelsea fans were casting him because they had bought him expensively for what, 80 million euros for Bayer Leverkusen. So I do not think that's a correct assessment of Kai Havertz if you're comparing him to the version that was at Chelsea. Snow LFC. Hi, hello. How are you, my brother? Kindly like the podcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel. But it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Really, it's a pleasure to have you guys here. I need to work on something. Just a second. Then you say, okay. You say yes, but they didn't know that Gravenberch was that good. Trust me. Well, I think they knew how good he was. They just didn't know whether he would be comfortable playing in that deep lying role. So in fact, I do agree with you on that. Then you say, Snowflow says, I'm good, how are you? I subbed. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Snowflow, for the love and support. Then Pedro, you say, listen, all those players were there last season when Liverpool wanted CMD, but now they got position, change because of the signing of Ryan Leeds. So now there's one more extra player for the city. Now, let me answer this in this way. Yes, all those players were there, and Ryan Gravenberch, did really, really well. They come into this transfer window after assessing their squad and their priorities, maybe not in the order that you and I may think them to be, or maybe I may think them to be. For example, who would have thought that in all what they needed is that Liverpool needed a number 10? That would be the primary target in the transfer window. One thing was for sure is that they wanted to move on Darwin Núñez and find a better striker. That's why their primary target was Alexander Isak, because he's proven in the Premier League so far that he will be a better goal scorer than Darwin Núñez. So that was part of the assessment. You remember, they did not want to lose Alexander Trent-Arnold, but it came live to them. It came live to them that he was going to leave, and they needed a replacement. So the priority became Jeremy Frimpong, and they managed to get that deal over the line as quickly as possible. They still have Andy Robertson, but they managed to bring in Milos Kakez, So, again, remember, Liverpool have not yet fully completed their transition. That's also part. That you do have Virgil van Dijk, who I think sooner or later will be out of pace. That he may not, with all his experience, that he may fall in pace, and that he will be better off being a backup player, kind of. So, if you watch that game, their game against AC Milan, you thought he should have done better in certain moments when AC Milan were running at them. So, sooner or later, Liverpool will have to continue with this iteration of transitioning their team from the Virgil van Dijk, because let's be honest, he's been consistently good, but he's not going to remain at that same level, and they'll know that for a fact. Mohamed Salah, again, Arne Slot adapted his playing to tell him, look here, all I want from you are goals. That's why you did not have Mohamed Salah do a whole lot of donkey's work in terms of trying to win the ball back. He stayed predominantly forward. Not that he did not contribute in any case, but he predominantly stayed in forward positions to be able to get Liverpool on that electric move. So, and because Arne Slot inherited Jurgen Klopp's squad, I'm sure he's made his own demands to try and adjust on the way they want to play. So that's what I'll say about that. I think you're blessing Mbaloba. Then I'm back. Okay, good to have you back, Shumail. Baleba is very, very good. Yeah, he's a very, very good player. Any team will be lucky to have him. Any team will be lucky to have him with Baleba. Did you find a trophy? I see what you did there, Pedro, to your friend. Shumail, are you from Singapore? Where are you from? Let us know, please. Pedro says, yeah, winning the Premier League, invincible. Dream about that. Okay. Carlos Baleba should be the target for everyone. By the way, guys, let's not forget this. You remember when Chelsea signed Kai Havertz? It's not because they were desperate to sign a player like him. No, because remember at that time, they still had Mason Mount, who was playing as a 10. Kai Havertz is predominantly a 10. But it was a chance signing, that opportunity that comes in the market that is too good to let go. If Brighton are willing to listen to offers, to a player like Carlos Baleba, that's a player you sign, not because you need him entirely, but he's just too good. So there's that. I've said this before, that if what, okay, let me ask Pedri, if you are to recommend two midfielders for Manchester United to sign, which players would you recommend for them? Look at the players they have: Manuel Ugarte, Kobe Maino, Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes. There's a youngster, I forget his name. There's a youngster that is also played in that midfield before. But assess all of them. Mason Mount as an attacking midfielder, and let us know which player, which two players would you recommend for Manchester United to sign? Okay. Okay, already done. No, bro. You're from Pakistan. Okay. Yes, Pakistan. How are things over there? I hope everything is okay. Have your tensions cooled with your neighbors, your brothers and sisters from neighboring India? Last I checked, you guys were having issues with your neighbors of a certain region. But I hope everything is okay. Kayavat, bro, don't say his name. He misses so many chances. I hate him. Okay, I do understand your that. It's because Arsenal won the Singapore Friendly Cup. Jesus Christ. Let's not mention Singapore Friendly Cups. It's the equivalent of mentioning the Emirates Cup. Then you say Mr. Footballtribe thinks Havertz is amazing at Arsenal. No, I'm saying he is better than the player he was at Chelsea. Of course, Premier League wise, he's not yet reached the levels that he was at Bayer Leverkusen. That we can, I think, all agree on. I do not think he's hit those levels. But let's all agree that he at Arsenal, his numbers are better than the ones he posted at Chelsea. That's for sure. That's a statement of fact based on statistics. It has nothing to do with my feelings about the player or otherwise. It has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with that. When you look at his statistics, sorry. So let's look at them briefly. At Chelsea, he spent there 3 seasons after joining them in 2020. Debut season, he played 27 Premier League games, scored 4 goals, and provided 3 assists. That's a 7-goal involvement. The subsequent season, 2021-2022, 29 Premier League appearances, 2 more than the previous season, 8 goals scored, 3 assists, and 11-goal involvement. And then in his final season at Chelsea, he scored 7 goals and provided 1 assist. Those were his numbers. At Arsenal, his debut season, he scored 13 goals and provided 7 assists in his debut campaign. Then last season, he scored 9, that was in 37 games by that. Last season, in 23 games, 9 goals and 3 assists, a 12-goal involvement in a season where he missed 3 months through injury. So it's just about the numbers. It's just about the numbers. He also scored, by the way, 4 goals in the UEFA Champions League and provided 1 assist. While at Chelsea, the only time in the best season he had was 2021-2022. He scored 3 Champions League goals. So based on those numbers, statistically, he's had played better, or he's been more effective at Arsenal than he was at Chelsea. That's basically what I'm saying, and that's what the data says. Then you say I would recommend a new goalkeeper and Baleba. You're recommending that for Manchester United? I think, yeah, they could use a goalkeeper and Baleba would be a very good midfielder. Chido Obi Martin could be the next big thing. He would have been the next big thing when he was still at Arsenal. At Manchester United, things have yet to happen for him. Of course, he only played 7 Premier League games last season, but he did not have the desired effect. I still have a feeling that if he had stayed at Arsenal, he would have gotten some good playing time, really. But let's wait and see. Because Manchester United in the market hunting for striker, while they are yet to let go with Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee, and Brian Mbeumo is coming in. That means Chido Martin Obi could be destined to have lesser playing time if Man United add in another striker. So remember, they are not in Europe. They are going to only be playing in the UEFA Champions League, sorry, they are only going to be playing in the Premier League. Wait for FA Cup that starts in January and a bit of Carabao Cup. So options in terms of playing time, it could be limited for him. Then things are fine here, but we are trash at every sport, cricket, football, and we are now trash at everything, even cricket. You guys are known for playing very, very good cricket in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, West Indies, very, very good at cricket. Is West Indies even a country? I don't know. Then you say, Snow LFC is from the USA. What part of the USA are you from? Please let us know. I think Man United need to replace Onana. I think that we can all agree on. Hello, who do you support? Goats Edits is the one asking. I do support Real Madrid. I do support Arsenal, but primarily I love football. So whether those clubs do exist tomorrow or not, I would still stay in love with football. So for me, that's the first priority above anything else. Then you say Havertz can't play good. You say Gyökeres blindfolded is better than Havertz performance. We are yet to see what Gyökeres can offer in the Premier League, but at least we've seen what can offer in the Portuguese League and the Championship. I hope, by the way, the amount of expectations Arsenal fans have in Victor Gyökeres, I hope he lives to those expectations. Otherwise, it will be a huge disappointment. The way literally Chelsea had that disappointment when they signed Fernando Torres in 2011, January, for £50 million from Liverpool, where he had scored about 65 goals in about 105 appearances in the Premier League. Sorry, in about 105 appearances. And then when at Chelsea, in 120 appearances, he scored only 20 or 25 goals. So I hope you do not get the same disappointment. I hope you do not get the disappointment that Chelsea had when they signed Claudio Pizarro, from Bayern Munich in 2007, So because even him things didn't work out. Andrei Shevchenko, So let's hope it all works out. Otherwise, there's too much hype about Victor Gyökeres. Deservedly so, but let's wait for him to prove himself in the Premier League. Pedri agrees with Shmuel's submission. You say, do you think Rashford will succeed? I think he meant Rashford, or whether it was intentional to call him Rashford, that remains to be seen. Footballtribe has a crush on Baleba and Havertz. Not really, by the way. I'm simply trying to be objective. And by the way, if you think I'm being biased, feel free to let me know to say that here you're being biased or blindfolded about a particular player. But I'm trying to be as objective as possible in my assessment of these players. Yeah, he will do so. Trust me. You're responding to Rashford. Bro, Baleba is decent. That's true. Do you think Noni Madueke is a flop? How can he be a flop before he even kicks a ball? Guys, he's only 23 years of age. Give him some benefit of doubt, And by the way, have you guys must have observed or seen what is happened with all the hype going on about Max Doman. So suddenly, if we wake up and he has 1, 2, 3 games, you'll all be shouting that he's too bad. Pedro is saying, breaking news, you're being so biased. Biased or no, on Havertz, I'm simply giving you what the data shows. I'm saying being true to the data. I'm basically like a camera. If a camera catches you on video when you're stealing, you cannot contest and say the camera is biased on you when it is only showing what is in existence. Let me see. I've skipped a couple of comments. I think Mbeumo is a good signing for Manchester United. Obviously, yeah, I think he's a very good signing for them, as well as Matthias Cunha. However, I'm also waiting to see whether those players will succeed at Manchester United, because it wouldn't be the first time Man United have signed very, very good players and they've not lived to their expectations. We've seen that over the years on so many players. When they signed Sancho, he was good. When they signed Anthony, he was good. When they signed Fred from Shakhtar Donetsk, was good. When they signed Paul Pogba from Juventus, he was a world-class beater. He never lived to that expectations. At Man United, in my personal opinion, when they signed Alexis Sanchez from Arsenal, in that swap deal with Henrik Mkhitaryan, he was really, really good, but he didn't live to the expectations. So let's wait and see if those players can live to. When they signed Harry Maguire from Leicester City, he was a brilliant defender. It never went well for him. I do not think it's going well for him at Manchester United, regardless of picking up a couple of medals here. You say, but to be honest, you guys didn't need him, but he is a good backup. I'm not sure who you're referring to. I think you're referring to Noni Madueke. Okay, but I think Arsenal needed a backup for Bukayo Saka, because if you look back before COVID, I think Bukayo Saka has played way too many games at club level and at national team level without being rested, without backup. For so many times, Arsenal fans have been clamoring for Bukayo Saka to be given ample rest, to be rotated, not because he wasn't delivering, but because they know he needs the rest as a player. But it never came because that potent backup was not there. And for him getting injured last season was sort of a blessing in disguise, but it all built to that because he was playing way too many games. And in fact, some Arsenal fans were praying and saying, how I wish he doesn't come back this season and he only comes back the following season, because they wanted him to stay rested, So they do need a backup. And I think, whereas my first thought wouldn't have landed on Noni Madueke as a backup for Bukayo Saka, I think they do need him. They do need a backup for Bukayo Saka. Then you say India cooked us 4-0. India cooked us 4-0 in football and won 5 times in cricket. Wow. India are really, really good when it comes to cricket. I didn't know they were that good when it comes to football. Then what's his name? The Indian football legend. He returned back to playing football, but his name is eluding me. FIFA did a documentary for him I think in 2022 or 2023. Then he scored about 95 goals for the Indian national team. Yes, Sunil Chetri. Yes, that's the name I was looking for. Very, very good player. Okay, I think I've read that. Snow LFC is from Oklahoma. Oh, are you a fan of the Oklahoma City Thunders? Footballtribe guy, do you think João Felix made a bad decision by joining Al Nassr? I do not think it's a bad decision if you have your national team captain playing for the same team in Al Nassr. I do not think it's a bad decision, although I thought in regards to maybe the media, the eyes being on him, he would have been better off going to Portugal, returning to Benfica, although maybe on the other part, you would argue that maybe Benfica would have been a comfort zone for him. So I do understand why he made the decision to go to Al Nassr. Maybe even his country captain made him a call to say, look, this is a very good club, come and join. And by the way, you remember what we saw of Al Hilal at the Club World Cup? I think that showed people that there is indeed competitive football in the Saudi Pro League, as opposed to what the media is telling us. But I do not think it's a bad move for him, really. What other option does the guy have? His career flopped so badly. Yeah, but Benfica wanted him. Benfica wanted him, but his career took a nosedive. Really, it took a nosedive. That is without question. Bro, percent biased. Really? I'm not biased about what? About Kai Havertz? Guys, just look at what the numbers say. Objectively, look at what the numbers say and then decide. Then there's somebody whose name I can't read. He says, who is your favorite UFC fighter? Was it Khalid? There was some guy. very not so big, quite a bit, medium sized, short hair. I do not watch so much of UFC, but I thought that guy was good. And he beat up against Conor McGregor when Conor McGregor was still just thumping. Apologies for the internet disruption there. Anyways, you say where is Kabibi? Yes, I think that's the name of the guy, Kabibi. Where's the guy who asked about UFC from? I do not know. I don't know. The problem is I can't even read his name, so I can't ask him. Why doesn't anyone sign Wissa? Newcastle are interested in signing him, but Brentford are closing the door on that move, and apparently he's threatened to protest that decision because when Ivan Toney left for the Saudi Pro League, he had been promised that he would be allowed to leave for about £26 million if an offer came in for him. And now Newcastle have come in for him. Newcastle have the offer for him to play in UEFA Champions League football. He wants to move, but Brentford are saying no. They are saying no to the move. So let's wait and see how whether that deal will develop. We still have a long way to go in this transfer window. Tottenham were also reported to be interested in signing the one Wissa. Scored 19 goals in the Premier League last season, which was very, very good. So yeah, Footballtribe biased guy. Do you think Liverpool needs McGay? I think we've spoken at great length about how Liverpool need centre backs because they lost Joel Quensha as a backup. He has gone to Bayer Leverkusen. But two, you have Ibrahim Konate, who has 1 year left his current contract. You have Joe Gomez, who is often always injured. It sort of leaves you a bit short, really. And for a team like Liverpool that wants to fight to retain the Premier League title, and they also want to win the UEFA Champions League, clearly, it will be blindfolded for anyone to think that Liverpool do not need a backup centre back or even a good centre back, in that case. So I do think they need McGay. There could be other alternatives because as we speak, apparently Liverpool do not want to pay the estimated valuation of McGay, which is about 45 to 50 million pounds. They want Crystal Palace to reduce their valuation of the player if they are to sign him. So, but indeed Liverpool, for me, in my opinion, I think Liverpool need a centre back. So whether it's McGay or somebody else, I do think they need a body in that defense. Unless you disagree with that, Snow LFC. Sorry, not Snow, Shumail. Unless you disagree with that. Snow LFC says, I believe Newcastle is interested in Wissa. Yes, that's true. But I do not see how he is being bashed. Thank you so much, Snow LFC. Snow, I think, guys, some of you are saying I'm biased just because I'm not agreeing with some of your submissions. I do respect the opinions, really. I do respect your opinions. I'm simply looking at things in a more objective way because for some of you, you're biased with your teams. And I do understand that and I appreciate that because that's what it means to support a team. It means that you're going to be biased with some of with either you like or dislike for certain players and certain things that surround that involve within the surroundings of your club. So I do respect that. Okay. Snow LFC, yeah, but they aren't offering that much. But their second bid was north of 30 million pounds. I mean, the player is 28. In September, he turns 29. So, but anyways, Brentford apparently value the player at above 40 million pounds. But let's wait and see. The window is still open. Snow LFC, bro, just see. He's being very objective, sir. Thank you, Snow LFC. Thank you so much. Footballtribe biased guy has 1,000, has like 1 million. Is that 100 million aura? Really? Sanil Chateri, Virati, Koli, bye-bye, biased guy. I have to go. Thank you so much for being part of today's engagement. Shumail, it's been really, really a pleasure doing this with you guys. Thank you so much for keeping us company and for your invaluable engagement and contribution to this engagement. Yeah, Oklahoma City Thunder fan. Okay, mine is Kabi Meduvo. Okay, Kabibi. Yes, but Kabibi was the name I was looking for earlier. If we do not extend Ibao, okay, if we do not extend Ibao, sell him, and Ibrahim Konate, okay, you mean if you do not extend Ibrahim Konate's contract and then sell him and buy McKay and a young centre back, that would be the, I think, the ideal scenario where you get to bring in some cash with the sale of Ibrahim Konate. We know Real Madrid are interested, but no offers have been made to Liverpool, at least formally. So let's just wait and see. He told me that Maguire is better than Van Dijk. Who told you that Maguire is better than Virgil van Dijk? Really? Who said that? Because I know it wasn't me. I know it wasn't me. You know, I know it wasn't me. Or just bringing in some young centre back. I think we have to be intentional because look, just imagine, just put yourself in a scenario where you lose your main centre back. We've seen these things happen. You remember last season, Tottenham Hotspurs, they constantly lost Mickey van de Ven to injury. At some point, they had Christian Romero out, and they struggled really. So you, as Liverpool, you wouldn't want to find yourself in that kind of situation where if you lose Virgil van Dijk or Ibrahim Konate to a serious injury, then suddenly your defense crumbles just because it was, you know, a mere young centre back. So I think you have to be really, really intentional. It has to be a very, very good player that is capable of competing. Now, the challenge with bringing in that caliber of player, for example, let's say you are to bring in McKay. He wants guaranteed playing time because at the end of the season, we are going to be playing, there's going to be World Cup. And what players do want is to compete favorably in to earn themselves a slot in their respective national teams, you know. And for them to be able to do that, they need to have consistent playing time this season. So we ought to bear that in mind. Then you say, okay, if not Kabibi, okay, Kabi, I want to give you 100. You want to give me $1,000? Oh, thank you. How are you going to send that? Tottenham Hotspurs, not Tottenham Hotspur or Tottenham Hotspurs. Okay, okay. Thanks for the correction. Not plural Hotspurs. Okay, thank you for that point of correction. But Pedri, you didn't tell me what two players. I said in midfield. Although I think you mentioned a goalkeeper and Baleba, but particularly for me, I think Man United needs a player, a number 8, a player that can play like Yuri Tillemans, a player that can play like Luka Modric or Toni Kroos in that kind of mode. They do not exactly have to be that with that caliber of talent, but a player with that kind of football intelligence. Ederson from Aston Villa. Who is Ederson from Aston Villa? I do not remember Aston Villa have any Ederson. Maybe you're talking about Ederson from Atlanta, the Brazilian midfielder. Unless that's the one you meant. Xhaka would have been really, really good for Man United. Well, they did not bid for him. I do not know if he would have been open to joining him. Okay, sir, I need to have to leave. Hope all is well in Uganda. Yes, all is well. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having your company, Snow LFC. I hope you do join us for our future broadcasts. Okay, yeah. So yeah, he's a player that they've been linked with on a couple of occasions. And yeah, although they've not made a move for him, before they signed Manuel Ugarte from PSG last summer, he was one of the names they were heavily linked with a potential move for. And some Saudi Pro League clubs have been linked with a potential move for him, but so far, for now, he remains at Atlanta. Oh, you are testing my awareness. I'll join you next one soon. Okay. Thank you so much, Snow LFC. It's been a pleasure being with you. Greetings to every single one of your colleagues out there in Oklahoma. with whom you may support Liverpool and follow the Premier League as much. So thank you for that. Guys, it's been 2 hours of us doing this. Would it hurt if we wrapped it up, unless there's any breaking news, any significant news that we need to discuss? Aaron Ramsdale to Newcastle, do you think that's a good deal for Newcastle, given that they are missing out on James Trafford? What are your views on that one? Because at the end of the day, Newcastle need a goalkeeper. I saw their goalkeeper, John Rudy. I mean, he looked more than he didn't look a day under 45, and yet he's only 38. You know, no disrespect to him, but that's how he came off. That's what he came off. I was joking. I can't give money. I can subscribe. Thank you. Thank you as well. But your views about Aaron Ramsdale going to Newcastle. I'm interested in hearing those. Do you think it's one of those? It helps Newcastle. Does it improve them? But I think him joining Newcastle brighten his chances of being part of that England national team for the FIFA Club World Cup. Do FPL. I will look into that. I'll look into that. Aaron Ramsdale is the worst Englishman goalkeeper ever. Really? Did you watch Robert Green in the 2010 World Cup in South Africa? Anyway, it's your view that he is a bad goalkeeper. I do not think. I do not think Ramsdale is a bad goalkeeper. I think he's a good goalkeeper that has predominantly played in bad teams. And no wonder every time he gets relegated with the team in the Premier League comes in to sign him, because they know he's capable. They know how good he is. They trust him. So anyways, good goalkeeper for League Two teams. Really, isn't that too far down the line? Okay. Anyways, League One. No, that's too far. That's too far. That's too far. That's too far. JY815. Rashford is greater than Figo. Really? Pedri. That's yours. But Pedri is going to be biased, because I know he's not a fan of anything Real Madrid. So, but I mean, why would you disrespect Luis Figo comparing him to Marcus Rashford? Why? Why would you do that to the Portuguese legend? I'm not biased. I'm not biased. You people think that. Then Gianluigi Donnarumma could end up at Chelsea. Gianluigi Donnarumma. I did say Maguire is better than Virgil van Dijk. In what world would he be? Honestly speaking, in what world would he be? Ever since Liverpool signed Virgil van Dijk in January 2018 from Southampton, he's arguably been one of the best players there has been in the Premier League. You say Galatasaray wanted him. Yes, they do want him, but even Chelsea are interested, and he's here to agree to a new contract with PSG. PSG are pushing to sign a goalkeeper from Lille for about 40 million euros. I think there's an increasing expectation that the 26-year-old Italian could leave. So let's not rule anything out. This is according to Fabrice Hawkins, who says Gianluigi Donnarumma has not yet left, even though his agents are exploring the market to find him a new destination. The Italian goalkeeper has options. Manchester United, Manchester City, Galatasaray, and the Saudi clubs are interested. However, he remains attached to PSG and will only leave if a project fully suits him. That's according to some reports. Internally, the possibility of seeing Chavalia, yes, the goalkeeper from Lille is called Chavalia, and Donnarumma compete with Luis Enrique, making the final decision is not ruled out. Macassino, hi Macassino, good to have you back on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but it's a pleasure to see you back. How have you been lately? How have you been? You okay? Rodri is going to Real Madrid. That's according to JY. And not yet confirmed. There are multiple reports linking Rodri with the potential move to Real Madrid, but nothing has happened yet. Let's wait and see. Among the options of players that have been linked with the potential move to Real Madrid is Rodri, is Nico Barella from Inter Milan, as well as Enzo Fernandez from Chelsea. Then the other has been Liverpool's Alexis McAllister, but nothing concrete has really moved. I do not know what Florentino Perez is planning on cooking, but let's wait and see. Let's just wait and see how everything will be by the end of the transfer window. It's Alexander Isak going to Liverpool, I think, because he said he only wants Liverpool. Well, let's wait and see. If Newcastle open the door to receiving offers for Alexander Isak, I think Liverpool will make a bid and they will push to try and sign him. Whether they will eventually get it done, that remains to be seen. Why do Madrid want Rodri? They want to strengthen their midfield, really, because they believe that the players that they do have in Aurelio Tchouameni, Eduardo Camavinga, Dani Ceballos is expected to leave this summer. Pedri Valverde, they feel that there's a missing link in that cohort of players in the midfield, so they need to find a replacement. Another body within that midfield. Although personally, I feel that a player that can play a little bit more advanced, like Enzo Fernandez, would work for them much better. And you play him alongside Aurelio Tchouameni. But also, oftentimes, every time they have issues in defense, every time they have issues in their defense, they look to push back Aurelio Tchouameni to play in defense. So it could be part of that. Who is your football lookalike? Not that I have noticed or have been told, really. I've not been told. I wouldn't point a finger to anyone, at least not in quick memory. You think Paul Onachuku? Okay. Then Mbappe. What about Mbappe? JY, what do you mean? What's up with Mbappe? I look like Yaya Binelli Toure. I think we answered that question. Who is your favorite UFC fighter? Kabi. We answered that. Kabi or Kabibi. That guy from the Middle East or the Asia. Mbappe number 10. Yes, that was confirmed. He will be wearing number 10. That was confirmed. Any number changes at Barcelona? Let me ask, Pedri, what's the history, or what kind of value or history is attached to Thierry Henry in regards to Barcelona? For the little time he spent there, I know it wasn't much, but in what kind of view do they look at him when it comes to the previous Barcelona players? Paul Onochu. Paul Onochu plays for Trabzonspor, was also at Southampton. I mean, I do not see the resemblance whatsoever. I do not see that resemblance. Club-wise, when you say club-wise, what do you mean? When you say club-wise, what are you referring to? My challenge is that I can't read your name. Lamine Yamal is a 10, yes, a well-deserved. When you say club-wise, what do you mean? What club do I support? I do support Arsenal, I do support Real Madrid, but like I say, football is the first love. It's football first, and everything else follows. Guys, I hope our microphone doesn't run out of battery. You let me know in case I go mute. Anyways, who do you support? Okay. Oh, in my country, I used to support AC Villa, and take that word critically, used to. The reason as to why I fell out of love with our football is at some point we had two parties fighting for the football league. So what they ended up creating was two domestic super leagues. So we had the Uganda FIFA Super League. We also had the Uganda Super League Limited. So we had two factions. That means if you had a club, let's say, let me use the example of Arsenal. So you'd have a one club called Arsenal playing in a Super League Limited and another playing in the FIFA Super League Limited. So in other words, you had two clubs, one club split into two to represent it in two leagues. So that's how I fell out of love with the game here. But yeah, things got back to normal and they resumed. Vipers are the reigning champions of our domestic league. I think they've won it for the sixth time, if I'm not mistaken. They won the Cup double. They also won the Uganda Cup, which is like the version of the FA Cup in the UK. So, or the Copa del Rey in Spain. So yeah, that's to answer your question. Who is winning the World Cup? The World Cup. I think Spain will compete. Favorably so far. when I look at them as a team. But let's wait and see. It will depend. You never know by the time we conclude the season. Germany have risen from their ruins. France are back to their good selves. Now the challenge with France, they have so many good attacking players, and they do not know. I saw Didier Deschamps tried to sacrifice his midfield in favor of one of those attacking players, and it cost him that game against Spain. But even France are going to have a very good team when you look at the likes of Ryan Cherki coming in at Manchester City, Desiree Doué, Ousmane Dembele, Michael Olise, Kylian Mbappe. All those are players available to their disposal. Derek Upamecano, Ibrahim Konate, William Saliba, Theo Hernandez, Benjamin Pavard. Very, very good team. Very, very good team. So let's wait and see. The team that I support, which is Brazil, because Uganda has never been to the World Cup, we've been struggling really. We've been really, really struggling. Let's see if Carlo Ancelotti, the boss, can change our fortunes in as far as the World Cup is concerned. Then who do you support, club? I think I've responded to that. Is there match fixing in your country? It has been mentioned. The rumors have been mentioned. And some match officials have been suspended. We've had, some, penalties handed to people here and there. It's sort of that kind of underground kind of work secretive thing, the way you hear it anywhere in world football. No player or club official has been ever caught red-handed trying to fix a match, but those rumors have been there. And the federation tries as much as hard to tackle them. That's the Federation of Uganda Football Associations. Then you say, I know you're shy to say I'm trying to say what? Was that meant for me? My favorite player was Vincent Enyama. Your favorite player was Vincent Enyama. Wow. Vincent Enyama, the former Nigerian goalkeeper. Was it him? I stand to be corrected. My favorite player is Mason Greenwood and Thomas Partey. Okay. Wow. Brilliant choice of players. Mason Greenwood, very, very good player with both feet, more like an understudy of Usman Dembele. Very, very good. I think, wasn't he joint top scorer last season in the French League One? He scored 21 goals in the league. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that's to my reflection. Then some people are starving every day. Bonacella, Laura Miscali. Laura Miscali, hi, how are you? Where are you joining us from? Bonacera. Then you say, you look like Roger Smart. I look like Roger Smart. Roger Smart, very, very exciting Ugandan player, Roger Smart. Yeah, but thank you for that. My childhood hero, he was our team goalkeeper. He took us to the Champions League. Okay. Where are you from? You keep asking him that question, but he's yet to answer it. But if he's talking about Vincent Tenyama, possibly he could be from Nigeria. He could be from Nigeria. One of the people we have from Nigeria on this channel is Kayode Ogudeji. He's an Arsenal fan. Then we have another called, I think, John Joseph. He's also from Nigeria. Is it Ebo State? Something like that. My favorite player is Cristiano Ronaldo. Wow, okay, very interesting. That's good. I know Pedri, you've never told us who is your favorite player. Oh, you're from Israel. Okay. You're from Israel. Vincent Nyama in 2010. Okay. He says he's from Israel. I think that's the flag of Israel. Pedri, who is your favorite player of all time? Guys, allow me to have my microphones swapped out. So if you do experience any glitch in that feed, please bear with me if you can't hear my voice. Anyways, but we are good to go. My favorite team is Pumas from Mexico. Okay, Pumas from, wow, you have odd choices. Okay, not so odd. If your favorite team is from Mexico, your favorite player is Thomas Partey and Mason Greenwood, interesting choices. But I've told people before who my favorite player of all time is. So I do not think there's need to repeat that. Enyama was a keeper for Hartlepool, okay, in Tel Aviv. Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. That's good historical knowledge to know. Thank you so much for bringing us to the know. Vincent Enyama. Oh, Hapoel. Is it the Hapoel Nicosia? Something like that? Are they the same teams? Granit Xhaka to Sunderland, your thoughts? Going from a team that is going to be playing in the UEFA Champions League to a team that is not going to, that most people believe will be fighting for their lives to stay in the Premier League. Your views on that? Ronaldo is banned from USA. Why is he banned from USA? Why? Is that factual? Is that speculation? I don't know it to be a fact. I do not. Does he have any crimes in the USA? I do not believe. I do not know for a fact. Because he helps Palestine. Why you? But that's a personal issue. So why would you mix the two? One of the people that I know that I would not expect to see in the USA, regardless for when it comes time for the club, the FIFA World Cup, will be our own federation president. He's called Engineer Moses Magogo. He won't be allowed because he's serving a suspension due to a case that involved or the dubious sale, I think, of World Cup tickets, something like that. So I won't speak much pertaining the matter, but it relates to that. It was actually the sale of World Cup tickets of 2014. So we do not expect to see him. He has allegations like Kobe Bryant, but no. Those allegations were kicked out of court. Those allegations were there, I think, around 2009. Was it 2009 or after that? Around that period. So the matter had been settled out of court. The lady in question, whose name I do not remember, was paid $375,000 to let go of those issues, whatever, because those were issues of allegations of assault, sexual assault. That's what they pertain to. Now, I think about 10 years later, she went back to court trying to get $25 million from Cristiano Ronaldo. And the case was kicked out of court. And the reason, part of the reason as to why the case was kicked out of court is because her lawyer had obtained some documents illegally. So they were called inadmissible in court, something like that. I'm not a lawyer, so I won't speak to the facts of the law and things of that nature. But that's what we know. That's what I know. So if Ronaldo is banned from the US, I do not know it to be to that effect. I nailed it. Hapoel Nicosia. Yes. Thank you so much. Okay. Ronaldo did something naughty. Yes, we've spoken to that. He has allegations like Kobe Bryant. Again, in the case of Kobe Bryant, he won that case. It turns out he didn't do anything wrong. And besides, in the case of Kobe Bryant, we were told that the lady went to the men's locker room. For what now? Why would a woman go to the men's locker room? We do not know what happened in there, but those allegations were equally quashed down. Kobe Bryant was found to have not committed any crime, to the best of my knowledge, really. So, I mean, these allegations keep popping up every now and then amongst football players, amongst these superstars, whether it's basketball players, whether it's football players, even in the music world, we know them to be there. Sometimes they have mates, oftentimes they not had mates. You remember the case of Benjamin Mendy at Manchester City. So these things keep happening. So I like Cristiano because he helps people who are attacked every day and starved to death. Okay, Messi revives kids with bare hands. Okay, Messi is better. Ronaldo was in the US plenty times in exhibition matches. Okay, shush. Kobe case was sketchier than Ronaldo. I mean, let's not forget this. Just because an allegation is made against you does not mean it's true. So, for example, if I came here on this podcast and I told you, and Pedri, allow me use you for an example, and I hope this you'll take this in the lightest manner that it comes. If I came here and I said Pedri robbed from me, before I present any evidence whatsoever, it's just an accusation, it's an allegation, and then when we go to prove it, it turns out he did not rob me of anything, But by the time we get to prove that he's not actually robbed me of anything, probably we've smeared his name, we've dragged it in the mud, in the media, and he has a soiled name as somebody that is not a straight person, that is somebody that is capable of fraud or stealing. But yet, in actual sense, there were mere allegations. In fact, just a couple of days ago, there was a tweet from somebody. Yes, this was after Benjamin Mendy part ways with his current club down in France. And somebody asked the question, what is the penalty for people who bring such allegations that ruins other people's careers and they turn out to be not true? And I remember there was a very lengthy ongoing debate over there, or exchanges in regards to comments to that particular tweet. So it's as unfortunate as it sounds, because also on the other side, sometimes you have genuine victims, but these things do happen. It's not that just because somebody makes the accusation or the allegation, it means it's true. So let's extend the courtesy to one another. Search it, Sush. Kobe paid judges to clear his case. He admitted in several actions. Anyway, I can't say I'm privy to what the legalities were, what the full judgment was, but all I know that his name came out clean at the end of the day. So I won't speculate on the allegations that bribe judges and etc. I'm not privy to that information, so allow me to excuse myself from speaking further on that. She do not the capacity, so she, not you, JY. Okay, sorry. Okay. Yeah, but those things pop up every once in a while, every now and again. They do come up in all sorts of industries, whether it's the music industry, the football industry, and so many other places, as unfortunate as they are. In fact, we've had them before in the UK and France. We've had cases of blackmail. You remember the case that involved Karim Benzema and Matthew Debré and Matthew Valbuena. You remember that case? So let's wait and see. But I do not think Cristiano Ronaldo is banned from the US, but we will find out sooner rather than later, because I believe Portugal will be at the World Cup 2026. Come that time, I think they will be there. Okay. I was responding to something there quick. You say you didn't do anything. I agree with you in general, but in this case, there is plenty backed up statements. Okay. RIP Jota and RIP Kobe. Okay. RIP to many kids who die innocently while being forced out of their homes. I do not know what context in you guys are speaking, but whatever the case, and have no food to eat. I donated $1 to charity. Thank you for your donation. But guys, it's been a very, very wonderful football debate. Let's look to do this again. Last night we did not do our routine broadcast because I concluded some of my other duties a bit late, so I figured it wasn't worth it coming on. But later tonight we will have a broadcast at around 11 p.m. It could be a short one, but let's wait and see. Oh, you're saying you're talking about Palestine? Okay. Let's wait and see. Let's look to do this again later tonight. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure doing this with you guys for the last 2.5 hours. But before we sign out, thank you so much, Pedri. Thank you so much, JY815. I did not catch his name, the gentleman from Palestine, but it's been a pleasure. Just for the laugh, 77, Laura, Miss Kali, thank you so much. Who LFC was with us earlier. Thank you so much. trying to see who, so that I do not miss. Shumaili, thank you so much for being with us today. Who else? Who else? Ran Royal Tampan, thank you so much. Snow LFC from Oklahoma, thank you so much. You know, let me see. Is anybody whose name I've missed? I do not think so. And every single one of you that was part of today's broadcast for the last 2.5 hours, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the love and support. Thank you for the wonderful engagement, the debate, the discussions, where we agreed, where we disagreed. It's all football. We all have our own opinions and feelings about certain teams and players. So thank you so much for all the input, for the questions, for the comments, for the debate in larger context. Otherwise, it's been really, really a huge pleasure getting done this with you. Have yourselves a blessed, wonderful evening, because it's about 6:30 p.m. East African time here in Kampala, Uganda. So yeah, let's look to do this again soon. Bye bye for now. Stay blessed.